As a coalition, urge the international community, the civil society organizations, and concerned citizens, both at home and abroad, to stand in solidarity with Kenyans in condemning Kenya Kwanza's regime's blatant disregard for the public good.
And you should be on the lookout for the mother of all times in terms of corruption. The stealing that will happen between now and the end of the financial year.
The coalition is now accusing the government of having misplaced allocations.
Some of the examples of increased expenditure. Number one, Office of the Executive President, 1.2 billion shillings. Office of the Deputy President, 678 million shillings. Minister of Defense, 11 billion shillings. Additional. All these additional. Foreign Affairs, 1.4 billion. National Treasury, 6 billion. Monies are budgeted for the office of retired president, retired deputy presidents, the vice presidents and premiers, and nothing seems to be happening in those offices. Ask yourselves, where does this money go?
With the cost of living currently over the roof, Azimio now says the 2024 budget seeks to add salt to the injury, citing proposals of financing the budget which they say are punitive to the common citizen.
If the bill is passed as written, Kenyans must be prepared to give up their belts or what remains of them in the second wave of KK taxes. Because Kenya Kwanza is targeting them for the second time with a double taxation plan that aims to increase taxes by approximately 24,000 shillings per adult Kenyan per year. The majority of the tax measures in the 2024 finance bill are punitive in nature, with substantial consequences for Kenyans.
As the Finance and Planning Committee readies itself for the tabling of their report in the House on Tuesday, the opposition coalition has asked its members to avail themselves in the House for debate and shoot down the bill.
All well-meaning Kenyans must oppose the Finance Bill 2024 and have thus instructed all our parliamentary members to lead from the front in rejecting this punitive bill in its totality.
I want to confirm that I have dispatched 86 letters to the 86 members of the National Assembly elected on ODM, and I'm sure my counterparts in the other affiliate parties are doing the same, communicating the directive from the Council of Azimio that in fact all members of the National Assembly are to suspend any planned trips or any activities that would see them out of Nairobi for the duration of the consideration of the Finance Bill 2024, and that means from the date of tabling on Tuesday next week until a vote is taken.
MPs from the coalition have openly opposed the bill, threatening to shoot it down once tabled in the House.
Kwa hivyo mimi nasema hapa, mimi naenda kupinga hiyo tax, na mimi siendi kuweka mdomo, siendi kuweka kidole kwa hiyo tax.
As the reality of the 2023 Finance Act continues to affect every aspect of life, the presentation of the 2024 bill threatens to exacerbate an already tough situation, with the fate of Kenyans now in the hands of their elected representatives. Brian Amuai, K24, Nairobi.
And the second Kenya Kwanza 2024-2025 financial year has structural imbalances evidenced by the primary deficit, unrealistic revenue targets, and high domestic borrowing. That's according to the Institute of Economic Affairs, IEA. During their post-budget analysis, IEA has noted that there is needed to strengthen public oversight to ensure efficient use of allocated funds. Linda Koskei with that story.
Let's be honest with ourselves when we are having these discussions.
As Kenyans continue to digest the 2024-2025 budget read by Treasury Cabinet Secretary Njuguna Ndung'u, economic analysts seem to agree with their concerns so far that the budget is overambitious and will burden Kenyans through payment of taxes.
The adverse effect of increasing taxes is they create another problem of tax evasion. Sometimes they don't consider what the impact of increasing these taxes is, that most people will try to evade the high tax rates.
In terms of the measures that we are coming up with, we need a review and state that let's have let's have a review of our tax system and say, let's have a sunset cross and say, let's have, for example, 4 years, so that we create an environment which will be better for our investors.
The Institute of Economic Affairs is among the first entities to present their post-budget analysis, indicating that the total public debt as a percentage of GDP has been rising steadily from a low rate of 42.9% in 2012 to the highest rate recorded in the decade of 71.4% in 2022. This results from the government's over-reliance on debt to finance the ever-growing fiscal deficit. And that's why now the government has been forced to allocate more funding to servicing of debt as opposed to development.
It means that then, in terms of our deficit rising, it means that it's like we have a structural problem with our deficit, in that the money that we borrow to finance our budget basically should be development component, to ensure that whatever investments that we are making as a country is able to generate revenue so that we are able to compensate all what we are borrowing.
Another area of concern was the Office of the Auditor General, which IEA says faces a concerning funding gap of 2.53 billion shillings for the 2024-2025 fiscal year.
The resource requirement versus the allocation. I know in the previous chart we see there has been a small marginal increase in their budget of about 300 million, but that is insignificant.
In the budget, sectors such as national security and education have less than 10% of their total budgets allocated to development, which is generally low.
For government to suspend hiring of staff, especially in important sectors such as education, because of a deficit. Guys, in the adult world, people have needs, right? And there are things you can afford. So if the arrangement of government is such that it is not possible to release some people from work, and you cannot afford to pay more teachers, then that's the decision you make, understanding that it's a difficult decision, but it has to be.
But even with the growth of Kenya's economy, the second Kenya Kwanza 2024-2025 financial year has structural imbalance evidenced by the primary deficit and realistic revenue targets and a high domestic borrowing. Linda Koskei, K24 TV.
And away from that, the head of public service, Felix Koskei, is asking those in charge of finances and accounts in public service to ensure their records are well audited internally to ensure resources met their allocated purposes. Koskei was speaking during a meeting with the public finance management committees of state departments on the zero fault audit campaign. And as David Kagina now reports, Koskei has further dared those who cannot comply to step aside.
In the second forum of the Public Finance Management Committees of State Department running under the campaign Zero Fault Audit, the head of Public Service, Felix Koskei, has challenged the financial managers to ensure their books are in order as a way of combating corruption and cutting down on wastage of public resources by ensuring every fund is utilized in line with the intended purpose, the condition being for them to shape in or shape out.
Wale watalegea tumesema hakuna haja kukombana, kusumbukana hapa. Kama mtu hawezi ajiende nyumbani, uko na kazi mingi. Kujenga taifa sio pekee ati lazima ufanye kazi kwa serikali.
So far, accurate financial audit reports from the respective state departments have increased to 50%, with the head of public service exuding confidence that the number could be higher in the concluding financial year. Koskei has also expressed the government's intention to ensure the Office of the Auditor General has enough capacity to execute its mandates, urging all state departments to resource their auditors as part of ensuring transparency.
We want to resource them, so I expect all of us here, and this is a directive, when you go back, I want you to resource internal auditors. That unit has to be functional.
As part of the strategy to count down on the government expenditure that goes to the wage bill from the current 40.45% to 35% of the ordinary revenue, Treasury CS Njuguna Ndung'u on Thursday announced an extension to the freeze in hiring of public servants set to end this December The head of public service had defended the decision on grounds that a thorough audit needs to be done to identify the current skill based on technological advancements.
We need to freeze a bit so that we can take stock of the real need of the staff that we may require in future there, to get to know even the staff complement that is required to perhaps to replace those who are retiring, and come up with a very conscious, very clear strategy of ensuring that we balance the staff that we have and the expenses and the money that we are collecting from taxes.
This comes amid concerns by members of the public on the government's expenditure in light of a call by the head of state to tighten belts as the country shies away from borrowing to finance its expenditures and turning to tax funding. David Kagina, K24, Nairobi.
And Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has appealed to elected leaders to respect Kenyans and focus on serving and improving their lives. The Deputy President said it is wrong for some leaders to ignore their mandate and instead take to misleading and stepping on the people who look up to them for solutions for their challenges. He was speaking at the commissioning of new classrooms at Highway Manyate Primary School in Ruai Kasarani constituency. The DP said the time to deliver on the promises to the people is now.
Ningetaka kuuliza viongozi yote ya Kenya, tuwache kutukana wananchi. Tuwache kukula, tumeshiba, tunaanza kuwatapikia. Tuwache tukikula kufungua tumbo. Wewe kama umekula vizuri, ni sawa. Wale bado kula, waachie heshima yao. Hata kama hawana chochote ya kukula, heshima tu.
Mtu wa kuonesha naibu wa rais kidole, huyo ajue ni sisi anamurika, na mtu wa kutukana naibu wa rais anatukana wa Kenya. Kiti ya naibu wa rais ni ya wa Kenya. Watu wasiwache kuona kama hiyo kiti iko vacant.
Kimani Ichung'wah no longer has the local standard to be the majority leader. He is now a divisive figure in National Assembly, in Parliament, in Kenya. And I want to ask members of National Assembly to do the necessary to release yeye, aenda atuziane huko nje, mutafute kiongozi ambaye ataunganisha sisi.
Last time finance bill tukapitisha, tukatarajia tupate pesa fulani. Hiyo pesa hatukufikisha. Sasa tunatarajia tena tufikishe pesa fulani. Tuna hope tufikishe, si ndio? Sasa tungoje report ya finance committee, kwa sababu hizo amendments ndio zitatuambia kama kitu inaangushwa ama inapitishwa, ukweli ama uongo. Lakini sauti ya wananchi lazima tutaisikiza.
Well, and with that, we take our first break here at K24 Evening Edition. I'll see you in a short while. Stay tuned.
Are you a church and seeking to reach an even bigger